In this video, I'm going to share with you some foods that you need to stop eating if you're pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetic, or if you notice that your health is headed in the wrong direction and you want to avoid being type 2 diabetic. All right. And research shows, man, 50% of America is either pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, and 70% is either overweight or obese. That's staggering. That's crazy, man. That means 1 in 3 people are overweight. Out of 2 people, somebody is either pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. That is mind-blowing. All right. And so I want to spread some awareness to this stuff because I grew up in a family where everybody was quote unquote big bone. Before I went to college, went to Georgia State University, I didn't know. I used to think that being big bone was a thing. I used to think being heavy set was a thing. But little did I know, these were lifestyle-based habits, lifestyle-based health issues and weight issues that my family had. And when I was a kid, I would always hear about people saying they had type 2 diabetes or diabetes, and people sticking themselves, people that are close to, man, sticking themselves with needles and things like that and suffering. And the reason why is because of the food we were eating. Like, we grew up eating soul food every day. We grew up eating pound cake and cornbread and macaroni and cheese. It wasn't Thanksgiving just on Thanksgiving Day. It was Thanksgiving every day for us, and I saw it. I saw a lot of people wobbling around, struggling to get off the couch. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here because I was a little kid at the time. But when I went to Georgia State University, it really opened my eyes to how my family was really suffering. I had some real generational curses based on the lifestyle habits that my family had growing up, and maybe some of you guys can relate to that. And so over the years, I've been coaching now for about 14, 15 years, and so I want to give you guys some clarity around not just losing belly fat, because the more weight that you have on you, the more belly fat that you have, the higher you're going to be at risk for having diabetes. Okay, and so there's certain foods that we're eating that cause us to end up having high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and all these other health issues and complications that tend to happen, like the strokes and the heart attacks. And so I want to give you some game on some different foods that you want to stray away from, or at least eat in very, very moderate, like big moderation. Not just a little bit of moderation, but like you gotta keep these foods at bay. Okay. The first thing is refined carbs. Okay, refined carbs. I'm talking about things like cereal. I'm talking about things like cookies. I'm talking about foods like pizza, crackers. These types of carbs, they're stripped of all of its nutritional value. Okay, when I was in my early 20s and in my teens, man, I would just eat just based on pleasure, and that's what most people do. And I'm not saying I don't still eat foods based on pleasure, but my mindset since I've hit my 30s has changed. I eat based on value. Right? There's certain times throughout the week where I'll eat just based on pleasure, where once, maybe twice out the week, I'll have a burger and a fry, or I'll have me some Waffle House or whatever. I'm down South Georgia boy, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not doing it all the time. But here's the thing, I'm aware that those types of foods are not going to give me value. Those foods are going to give me pleasure. And so the majority of the time, 80 to 90% of the time, that's why I talk about the 80-20 rule, the 90-10 rule, right? Where 80 to 90% of the time you're eating healthy and clean, the other 10 to 20% you're eating your favorite foods, you're eating what you truly enjoy eating. Right? There has to be some type of structure around what you're doing. And when you lack that structure, this is what happens. These are consequences. The diabetes is a consequence of not having structure within your eating habits. Okay? And so you gotta be aware of the structure first, but then the foods, the refined sugars, the refined carbs, these are things that don't have the fiber in those types of foods, like the pizza, the cereal, the crackers, and all that kind of stuff. It's just gonna go right into your body. You're gonna eat it, and you'll notice after you eat these types of foods, within 3, 4, 5 minutes. I know for me, I'm sluggish. I remember when I was getting into my late 20s, I'm eating certain foods like Chick-fil-A biscuits, leaving Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, man, 5-10 minutes later, I'm ready to go to sleep. I'm ready to take me a nap. And the morning just started. I'm like, what the heck didn't happen? You know what I'm saying? And that happens to a lot of people, whether they're eating the donuts or the croissants for breakfast, the bagels for breakfast, and they're like, damn, why am I so tired and I just woke up. I'm eating breakfast. It's because it's spiking your blood sugar, all right? And this is what tends to happen when you're eating a lot of refined carbs. It's gonna spike your blood sugar, and then it's making your pancreas work really, really hard. Our pancreas produces a hormone called insulin. Insulin is what helps us regulate our blood sugar, guys. It helps us regulate our blood sugar so our blood sugar just isn't through the roof. When you're getting the itis, that's because you have an elevated level of blood sugar, all right? And so our pancreas comes in and it takes that sugar and it puts it into the cell. But what tends to happen is we're eating too much of an excess amount of sugar. And people who end up having pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes, they become what we call insulin resistant, okay? And when you become insulin resistant, that means your pancreas is not working effectively as it was before because you're eating in such excess amounts of sugar, okay? And so this is why people who end up on type 2 diabetes, they end up having to take medications, or they end up having to take like the insulin shots to help them regulate their blood sugar. You see what I'm saying? And this stuff is very scary, man. I've seen people in my family lose toes, lose their foot, lose half their leg, and things like that, just because of not building a healthy relationship with food, okay? And part of building a healthy relationship with food is understanding the value that food can either give you or take away from you. And so I'm not in this video saying that I'm perfect, that I don't eat, Waffle House, that I don't eat cookies like Oreos every now and then, but it's not on a day-to-day basis and not even on a weekly basis. But I do have structure and discipline around when I don't do it, okay? And so those are that's the first type of food, the refined carbs, okay? Again, pizzas, cookies, cereal. Man, I remember when I was in my early 20s, I would be emotionally eating because I was so stressed trying to get my fitness business off the ground, not knowing where my next client's gonna come from. And I would be thinking about just, man, I can't wait until the day over with so I can go home and eat me some honey buns, so I can go home and eat me some Oreos. And even though my body I wasn't gaining a ton of weight, I could feel it. Like I felt tired all the time. I would have brain fog all the time. My eczema started on my hands and feet. I'd have like hives and then they'd break out, my hands be drying up. It was terrible. And it's the food. It's the food that we're eating, okay? And so instead of eating all these refined carbs that don't have any fiber, you want to flip that and start eating foods that have more fiber in it. Foods that have more fiber in it, things like fruits, all right? And not just bananas. I'm talking about fruits like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. You want to eat colorful fruit to give you more fiber in your diet, okay? And even vegetables. I'm talking about asparagus, spinach. You could do kale. You could do Brussels sprouts, green vegetables, okay? Fiber. I'll probably make another video about colon cancer, but a lot of people get colon cancer because they're not having a fibrous diet. All you're eating is refined carbs all day, every day. Guys, you can't live like that and expect your body to be able to, continue to work at an optimal and efficient rate for you to be able to enjoy life. It's just not going to work that way. All right. And so that's the first type of carb, though, refined carbs. The second type of carb is starchy carbs. Starchy carbs are things like white potatoes. Okay. Another one is let me think for a second. Another one is corn. A lot of people tend to eat corn, and with almost every meal, whether it be for lunch or if it's for dinner too. And these types of starchy carbs break down in the body as sugar, okay? And it causes our pancreas to have to work harder. And so imagine if you're eating these types of foods throughout the entire day. Like some folks that I've known that I've came into my coaching program, man, they're snacking on chips all day. They're snacking on when they're eating lunch and dinner, they're eating potatoes with lunch and dinner. They're eating white rice. Like these types of foods, the nutritional value is not there. You're just eating carbs, and it's gonna break down in your bloodstream as sugar. All right, and so that's a no-go. Can you eat it? Yeah, you can eat it, but you got to keep it at a minimum. Okay, you need to be leaning towards more foods that are going to give you value, like I talked about earlier, the fruits, the vegetables, um, and even yams like sweet potatoes. You can eat those types of things. Okay, food that hasn't been stripped of its nutritional value. And that's why we call it processed carbs, right? They basically taken all the fiber out of it and they put all the extra stuff in there to make it taste really good, to preserve it longer, all right? So that it can stay on the shelf for longer without them having to take it off the shelf and they have to put some more food on the shelf. You see what I'm saying? That's why when you go to whether it's Kroger's, Publix, if you shop on the edges, that's where the most healthiest food is going to be at. If you shop on the aisles, these are going to be the most processed foods when you shop on the aisles. All right, I call it the aisles and the edges. Edges going to get more of the healthier food. Shopping the aisles, not going to be as healthy. All right, going to be more processed. Then the third one is I got my notes over here. The third one is high glycemic, not just foods, but also high glycemic beverages. This is where y'all see me talking to y'all all the time about, man, you better cut out them sweet teas all the time. You better cut out them lemonades. You better cut out them sodas all the time. Man, I know y'all have seen we've all seen somebody who gained a significant amount of weight in a very short period of time. I'm talking about in a year, they've gained 50 to 100 pounds. And you think to yourself, damn, how can a person gain that kind of weight so fast? Like, can you do it eating a lot of food? Yeah, you can, but a lot of times people are drinking their calories. And we can drink our calories way faster than we can eat it, all right? And it's not just calories, we're drinking sugar. And so if you're drinking sodas and sweet teas and lemonades, man, you're just pushing more and more sugar into your body. And guys, sugar is acidic. All right, and it's acidic inside our body, which causes inflammation. This is how people end up having things like type 2 diabetes and even cancer. All right, colon cancer, because of the type of foods they're eating. Okay, it has an excess amount of sugar. It's not just the calorie intake, but the sugar, the quality of the food. That's why I say you need to be eating more lean proteins. You know, you need to be eating more fibrous green vegetables and fruits. That way you can take care of your health. It's not just about how we look. We want to look good, but we also want to be healthy and feel good. I know I do, especially being in my 30s now. I feel it. There's a big difference between what I used to eat when I was in my 20s and versus now. And I'm very mindful around how frequently I might eat certain foods because it's go tank my energy. It's gonna tank my mental bandwidth. I won't have as much mental focus. It even tanks like my libido. Like, it's crazy. I hit like 31, 32 years old. I'm like, dang, why I feel like this? Why I don't have like that extra urge like I used to? You know, we do naturally, our testosterone starts to lower, but it can lower way faster if we have poor eating habits. If we're always drinking and eating sugar. All right. And so these are foods you really want to pay attention to, man. I want you to think about this. Back when I was growing up, I used to always drink sweet teas. I mean, not sweet teas, but what do they call it? Kool-Aid. And Kool-Aid was like the thing. Like, and when we would put a lot of sugar in that Kool-Aid, like, you know, stirring it around, the more sugar we would put in there, the thicker and thicker the Kool-Aid would be, right? And you could almost dang near, you know how you could pour some water on the counter and it just spreads. But if you have so much sugar inside that Kool-Aid, like back then, we could pour it on the counter and it would almost be like a slushy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just way too much sugar. And a lot of people back then, we used to compete about who had the best tasting and sweetest Kool-Aid and all this type of stuff. And some people, they're doing it not with Kool-Aid now, but with lemonade and sweet teas and sodas and stuff like that, right? And so here's the thing. This is what's happening inside your body. When we eat all this sugar, the sugar goes into our bloodstream, right? And so it's also making our blood thicker, right? It makes our blood thicker. There's this thing called edema, where if you've ever seen somebody, you look down at their ankles and the bottom, like towards their calf area, and it's become swollen It's become like, it's like really swelled, like even their feet. One reason can be because of an excess amount of sugar over time. They've been eating and drinking so much sugar. It's easy for our heart to be able to pump that blood throughout our body up top, right? So you don't really see like the edema and stuff like that up here. In some people you can, but most times it's in the lower extremities, right? The feet, the calf muscle area, below the knees, that type of thing. And the reason that happens is because our blood has to be able to go down our body from our heart. It goes down our body, through our legs, and then back up. But if our blood is so thick from all the sugar that we're eating, it's going to be harder for that blood to come back up from our feet and our legs, our lower extremities. And so this is how people end up getting edema. This is how all that blood is just settling down there because of all the excess sugar that's in their bloodstream. Okay? Very, very important that you understand this stuff, because this is how people lose their toes, their feet, in some cases even their legs, man. All right? But I want you to really start paying attention to the type of foods that you're eating. You don't have to be perfect, but you do need to start developing some structure and a healthy relationship with food. That way you can avoid these things. All right? And you don't have to be extremely overweight to get type 2 diabetes. Guys, there's people that are, they're slim. They're just skinny fat, and they have type 2 diabetes because of the way they're eating. Okay? And when you eat an excess amount of sugar over a period of time, you become insulin resistant. That means your pancreas isn't producing that insulin to help you regulate your blood sugar anymore. So you have to go to the doctor and get medication for it. You see what I'm saying? And so start eating more fibrous foods. Start eating more foods in general that have one ingredient. When you go to the grocery store, spinach, fruits, vegetables, they have one ingredient. You know exactly what it is. Whatever that food is, that's what the ingredient is. But when you're eating a lot of processed foods, it has a lot of different ingredients, okay? Even sodas. Guys, I know they say sugar on the ingredients label, but there's more than just one term for sugar. I don't know all of them, but if you do the research on it, you'll notice that there's 10, 15, possibly even 20 plus different terms that just mean the same thing as sugar. It's just artificial sugar, all right? And these things can also cause type 2 diabetes. And so if you're drinking an excess amount of zero sugar sodas, there's a synthetic sugar that they put inside these sodas that can actually spike your blood sugar. All right? So it's very important to pay attention and be aware of what you're eating and putting into your body. All right? I always tell people this on my social media lives and stuff like that on Instagram. Guys, there's consequences for things that we don't know. All right? So just not knowing it doesn't give us a pass. It doesn't mean that you still won't have consequences behind your behaviors or lack thereof. Okay? I remember when I was, like 18, 19 years old, when I started my fitness career, I used to do boot camps. And I didn't know that you couldn't drive through the gore. Like the little yellow lines. I didn't know that. I need to get off the interstate, and I drove through the gore. Police pulled me over, gave me a ticket. I didn't know. I was like, shoot, I just need to get off right here. But I still got a ticket for it. So there's still consequences behind our actions, even if we don't know. And so my whole thing is, I just want to make you guys aware of it, and so that way you can start taking necessary actions to make sure that you can avoid having these things happen to you. Because a lot of y'all, I know you have people who love and care about you. You want to be able to enjoy life, you know what I'm saying? And if you're worried and stressing about your health all the time, man, that's going to take the joy out of living life, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, like I said earlier, focus on foods with one ingredient. That goes for not just the fruits and vegetables, but also the proteins. Chicken, beef, steak, you know what I'm saying? Eat these types of meats, fish that don't have a lot of different additives and preservatives inside of it that, you just never know what's in all that stuff. So try your best to cook food at home. Don't eat out all the time. Don't be eating all this fast food all the time, because they're adding extra things in it to make sure that you guys get pleasure from it versus value via your health, your vitality, your energy. You see what I'm saying? And so be more value minded in terms of food rather than pleasure minded, and you'll notice that your body will thank you for it. Your body will you'll be able to live longer. All right, you'll have more energy. You'll look the part. You'll feel proud about the way your body looks. All right, but hopefully y'all found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well to continue to rock with the channel. And if there are certain topics y'all want me to talk more about, whatever I believe I know enough about, I will talk about. And this is something that I learned a lot about because I had a lot of people in my family that struggle with high blood pressure, strokes, type 2 diabetes, and so I want to learn about it. So with that said, we out of here, man. I'll catch y'all on the next one.